Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Partners in Prosperity.
Hey.
And in this episode, we'll be talking about why you should not go into business or entrepreneurship with your spouse or significant other.
Yes, and that may sound a little backwards, right? Because the whole reason we started this podcast, if you got a chance to catch our introduction or our first one, is because we wanted to build a community of people that were partners and wanted to be on the road to starting their own business and working together. So what we're telling you now might be counterproductive to what we initially were saying, but we're going to go over reasons that well-intentioned loved ones may give, media has, I'm sure, given, or just people that you will talk to that will try to dissuade you against going into business together. Our hopes is that if we can address some of these and show you how us going into business together wasn't because these concerns were absent, but just because we found ways to kind of get through them, it may be for you. It won't be for everybody, but if you're hearing what we kind of have to offer to the objections and you're feeling like you can still do it, then this entrepreneurial journey may be for you.
Yeah, it might be something you can do.
Yeah, but first, we have to do our
Ish and giggles.
Yes, our signature question, Ish and giggles. So the question is, two people dating. The male plans a date for his significant other, and she knows it's extravagant. She knows this is going to be a big date and that he's putting a lot of money aside for it. At some point before they go on this date, she goes to him and says, hey, I am short on a bill this month. So are you able to cancel this date that you planned for us and just give me the money to pay the bill? So the significant other doesn't necessarily want to because he wants to have a date. The young lady wants this money. She feels like a date is not going to be helpful for her, but the money will. So who's in the right, who's in the wrong? And I guess it doesn't have to be necessarily right or wrong, but what is your thought about this?
Listen, now, guys out there, y'all know that, or at least you should, you put a lot of time and effort into planning something like this, especially if it's going to be extravagant.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's, different for everybody, but you put whatever your amount of time and effort into that. And so to have that person then come back and be like, you know what? Thank you, but my irresponsibility is, no, I'm just playing. Thank you, but, I want to use this for a bill. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is a hard pill to swallow. I guess we need more information, right?
Yeah, like how long they're together, the timing of it, did they just have a fight? Is this for an anniversary?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But just, in general, I would say I would try to figure out a way to do both. That's kind of my thing is I always try to figure out not an either or, but a both. So I would ask, some probing questions. What kind of bill is this? When is it due? Can this be taken care of when we come back? That type of thing. But that's what my response would be, would try to figure out how to do both, but also try to figure out how to make sure she's not in that position again, depending on how long we've been together.
Okay. So I feel like it's always hard when we ask questions like this and we are like, oh, we need more information, because then at that point we shouldn't have asked the question, right? So let's plug in some things, right? It's only a hypothetical. Okay. So we're free to plug in. Let's say dating for a year. Let's say everything's going pretty good. Everybody is good about kind of taking care of their own finances. And it is on the right track to kind of being something that's forever. And she's just feeling that she's not going to be able to relax, have a good time, have this date. If the date is indeed for her, she's saying this, thank you for this, but I need this. So then it begs the question, is the present that you're giving her for her? Or is it for you? And she's just a byproduct of it. Because if it's for her and you really want her to enjoy herself, and she's saying, I'm not going to enjoy myself unless this bill is paid, then you have a decision to make. But I think sometimes the gifts that we give are for the other person, but mostly for us too. So we just have to kind of ask yourself what.
So I guess a date, I would think, for the most part, would be for both people.
Yeah.
Now, it may be mainly for her in this situation, but he's getting something out of it as well. He's seeing her happy. He's seeing her smile.
Now, would he not get those same things out of paying the bill for her?
I don't know. Hold on. No, I don't mean it like he doesn't get anything out of her being happy because her bill is paid.
Yes.
I mean, is she going to still smile and stuff after paying the bill, or is it just kind of like a, okay, I dodged that one, that kind of thing?
I feel like anytime you're with somebody that's willing to give up this extravagant date, so a good time to do something responsible, or to be so stressed about a bill being due that you're willing to forego this potentially to pay this bill, it's not going to be just a fly by night. It's going to be something that's taken a lot of weight off her shoulders. We all know those people that, Pitbull made a song about it, right? I knew my rent was going to be late about a week ago. So some people are like, I don't care what has to happen.
And I'm willing to bet she knew a week ago.
And so I am too, but I'm thinking, giving her the benefit of the doubt, she was trying to figure out how to figure it out so that we didn't come to this.
Makes sense.
But if it's to the point where she's like willing to forego this fun, fancy, and make herself look vulnerable, like I'm in a bind here, I think it would be just as rewarding for her to get the bill paid than go on the date.
I'm sure.
And the man gets the same thing out of it, to me, because he still gets to be the protector and the provider, and he still gets to be somebody that is gifting you. So there is that part of it, right?
Listen, did I just hear you say to you?
Well, because I can only answer from a female point of view.
Right,
so
exactly.
I want to put that preface on it. I don't know if you guys have noticed I'm not male, but I wanted to put the preface on it that from where I'm standing, it would seem that the man would.
Should.
Yes. I don't know. It would be hard for me to find a male that, or be okay with a guy that's like, no, we're going on this date. So you figure out how to pay this bill on your own, but we're going to go on this date.
Right. Well, yes. In those words, that's probably not going to go well.
Okay. Well, he could say it nicer, but when you shake it down, that's really what he means if he's not going to give her the money.
Right.
And so then how do you even have fun? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where if you don't do it, then you probably, the date's going to be trash anyway.
Right.
I feel like she's not going to be
I think
100% herself.
I think, as a guy, you should big picture it and think, what's the end result here, which is for her to be happy. That was the point of the date, right? So take care of the bill, postpone the date.
Or do a smaller date. Take care of the bill, figure out if there's something smaller than you can do. Can you drive up the coast? Can you video arcade it? Can you do something that still allows you guys to have that quality time? And maybe even bond, because now you guys have went through something and you've kind of shown that you're down for this person in a way that you haven't been able to, been allowed to be there for them before. So I feel like that trumps an extravagant date any day. The ability to kind of bond with getting through something together. So I'm not saying trash the date and throw it away, but maybe figure out a way that, like you said in the beginning, both can happen. So maybe not at the level that you had planned, but maybe something. But let us know what you think. Those are our perspectives.
Let us know what you think in the comments.
Or if this has happened before, even better. And how did you handle it? Because it's a very interesting, very thought-provoking question. So let us know.
Yep. It kind of gives you some insight into how people resolve conflict.
Yeah, and what people hold important and what people hold dear to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Thank you guys. So we look forward to reading your responses so we can see kind of how spot on we are, or seeing a different type of a point of view that we didn't even consider. So
For sure. So couples who run business together, they often run into some challenges in both their personal lives as well as in business. And so trying to figure those two different avenues out, there are a lot of roadblocks that can come up. So one of them being blurred boundaries is one of them.
Yeah, because if you think about it, couples that don't run businesses together often have issues in their personal life and in their work life. They just get the ability to kind of separate, have a wall between them, so that you're at work, you're dealing with your work things, you're at home, you're dealing with your home things. When you are in business together, especially if you're blessed to get to the point where you are working solely for yourselves, there is no longer a line between what could possibly affect the household and what is affecting you at work, because now the household and work are intertwined. There are a lot of blessings that come with that, I would say, but I think until you kind of navigate exactly how to figure out those blurred boundaries, it could be something where you feel like there's no end to the job.
Right.
And that's hard, because then it's hard to get back in that personal space if you're feeling like all the time we're working.
For sure. For me, her and I have two different, as well as we complement each other, we have two different working styles. And so for myself, I'll go sit down and I'll do some stuff. And then I have to get up and either go walk around for a little bit and then come back or do something physical task that's still a part of the job, but not just literally sitting stationary in one position. And I know for her, I think this happened earlier in the week. You had came back from dropping the girls off and or dropping the Chaminade kids off. And you came into the office, you sat down, it was about 9:45, and you did not get up until about 9 p.m. And she was just churning and burning, churning and burning, churning and burning.
Yes, yes. And if you've watched any of our other podcasts, you know that we have calendar rules, we'll call them. And so the biggest one that we have is that we have a hard stop on Thursday night. We are done working. We hold our Friday sacred.
We try to be.
We do definitely try to be. There are some exceptions to that rule because it is our company. We're not going to let anything crash and burn just because we've decided we're not working on Friday.
Right.
So, but if at all possible, our hard stop is that Fridays we do not work at all. So that means the first half of the day when the kids are at school, we have a date or just do something so that we can connect. And then the second half of the day when the kids are out of school, we have a family date. So basically it's Friday family day all day. We are blessed to be able to do that. But what that means is that we gotta keep our head down and get 5 days worth of work done in 4 days because we cannot let goals not be met. We cannot let employees not be tended to or, funding sources, be ignored because we've decided that we're not working on Friday. We're not, it's not that type of calendar rule. It's more, we hold ourselves to a stronger, set of boundaries Monday through Thursday. So yes, my style is I come up with my top 3 and then fill in the other stuff that needs to be done. And I'm sitting with my head down, getting it done. But I think that one thing that helps, and if you are able to do this, this is ideal, is to have one spot in your home that is going to be for work. So for us, we have an office. So each home that we've been in, we've turned our formal dining room into the office. So it's not just that we've come into these houses and they just have this amazing office because, it's just a space that we're like, you know what, we could do without the formal dining room, and that's always been our office, so that we have a place that when it's time to work, we both go into there, we have desks, and we're sitting, we have, it's full of all the office stuff that we need, and that's the spot that we work at. When we come out of there, then we know that now it's family time. We're on family time. So on a rare occasion, I may take the computer to bed with me and for a couple of hours, like churn out some emails or do some things. But I would say for 90% of the time, we're pretty good about the office being the space that we work in.
For sure.
So for you, if you have a space, whether it's just your dining room table and during the hours of 9 and 5 or whenever you're gonna work, you kind of clear it of anything personal and you put up your little boss lady, placard and your pencil case, and that's just your area, even though it may not be designated for that the whole time. But it allows you to train your brain that this is where we're working at now, and this is what this area is. That way, when you go away from the dining room, and let's say you're in the kitchen making lunch, or you guys kind of go out for a walk, it's not like everywhere in your house is representative of work. So that's been very helpful for us. I know some people do actually have offices. We don't, because the size of our family is so big. We kind of, it's helpful to be home. But just having, I think, that designated space helps us be able to draw those boundaries, and having calendar rules,
For sure.
Understanding. So let's say he's scheduling a meeting for me or interviews, or I know that there's a time that I need him to handle something. Both of us being aware of our calendar rules where, at 2:00 it's a hard stop because we got to start making lunches for pickups. Friday doesn't exist. We don't a lot of times do meetings or take any type of meetings on Monday, because a lot of times that's the day that we need to kind of figure out the structure of our week and get it planned and not kind of go right into it, giving our time to other people. So having those boundaries for your calendar rules and then having a designated space, I think helps a lot with the boundaries of I'm working from home, but I'm at home, and things are just kind of bleeding into each other.
And making sure that you have, you mentioned this in the beginning, making sure you have the dedicated space, but also dedicated time. So this is the time for work, this is the time for not work, but also having some flexibility in case, a deadline or something needs to come up. You're obviously not going to not meet the deadline. So sometimes, that Friday ends up turning into work, or Saturday turns up into work, or whatever it is. A lot of the times when I'm doing drop-offs and pickups, I'm still working on my phone as well. My background is in IT, so I make sure that my phone, anything that I can do on my computer, I can do it on my phone. So that helps me to satisfy my need for not being in one spot at the time, but still being able to work. So.
And the areas that we've designated for work, I think help us because a lot of times when we're outside of those areas, we don't talk about work as much. If we do talk about work, it's kind of like we would talk about work if we both worked someplace else and we're venting about what happened or something that we're, a problem that we're trying to sort through or something funny that happened. And it's more just like that conversational bonding time. But when we're in the office, it's more, having those specific conversations. So kind of just, making space for that, I think helps a lot. It's not the only way, but it's a big one. It's one of the structural ways where you can say, during the hours of this time and this time, and within the confines of this space and this wall and this wall, this is where we're gonna, kind of handle work things. And then when we step outside, we're free to kind of be couples, be parents, be best friends, whatever you need to be, whatever hat you need to wear at the moment. I think that's helpful for that.
For sure.
Yeah. What's the next one?
Conflict resolution. So that's a big one, big one. We definitely don't have that mastered. It's something that we work on a regular basis. Conflict resolution stems from, you have your defined roles, and sometimes those roles blend together, and you're kind of like, hey, I was doing this. No, I was doing this. And no, this is the way we should go. And so one of the things that I feel like helps us when we have that conflict resolution is having some sort of standard as far as how we treat each other. And so what I mean by that is, in the morning, no matter what, whether we just argued that night or argued that morning or whatever, I'm going to make a green juice.
Which is the equivalent of getting your wife a cup of coffee. That's my caffeine. So that's what he's saying. He's going to bring me the thing that's going to turn me into a human because I'm not a morning person.
So something like that, or at night, I'll make sure that I turn on our heating pad to get our bed warm and everything. So that when she gets in, she's nice and cozy and stuff. So no matter what's going on, I make sure there's a certain set of things that I do so that she knows, even if we're beefing or whatever, at the very least, I'm still there and still, consistently showing my affection.
Yeah, it's feelings versus principles, right? Our principles hold us to treating each other a certain way and respecting each other a certain way, and we don't want those to be changed based on our feelings because our feelings are fleeting. And so those are, yes, for sure, depending on the day, depending on what's going on, depending on how we sleep. There's so many different variables that affect feelings. We would be lost. Our employees, our kids would be lost if they were dependent on two people that were able to just kind of sway with whatever our feelings are taking us. So instead, we have goalposts that are our values and the goals that we set for ourselves, and we have to hold on to those when our feelings just aren't cooperating and say, I may not like what we have to do right now, but we got people that need to be paid. We have bills that need to be paid. We have goals that we need to meet. We have a family that we need to run that's expecting that Friday family date night happens whether you guys are getting your lives together or not. So really holding tight to what we have committed to over what we feel like doing that day. For my part, it's anytime I get up and make myself something to eat during the day, I'm making sure that I feed him. Although he needs to get up and down and do different things, the one thing he will not do is go in the kitchen and make lunch for himself or feed himself. So a lot of times I will stop and bring home a breakfast sandwich on my way home, or, warm up something for him, or just say, hey, I'm going to get something to eat. Are you hungry? And usually I'm met with, I'm starving. He's just not going to do it. He gets dialed in himself and he's doing his own thing. So no matter if I'm upset or not, no matter if I am tired or if I would really just like to get myself something to eat and not him, what I have decided is that when he's home, I'm going to take care of him in that way. And so it doesn't matter what my feelings are telling me. Those are the principles that we kind of stand by. And so I think the reason we've been so successful is because we are able to push feelings aside a lot. It doesn't mean that they're not there. And it definitely doesn't mean that we don't take time to go over. Because if we don't, right, it's going to bleed into something else. So we are not going to sit and act like we just have it mastered and we just leave our feelings alone and they don't even bother. No, we have to figure out a time to deal with them so that the people that are depending on us don't get left in the cold. And so they do need to be dealt with no matter what. You just can't let them run the show. You have to decide when they're going to be dealt with and decide that there's going to be certain things that just, are non-negotiable. If we decide that we're upset and I don't want to deal with you, and he has a question about payroll or has a question about a new hire, and we just decide we're not talking, what does that mean for that person that was supposed to be onboarded and is now waiting for a check, or a funding source that needed this piece of information and he doesn't know if I gave it or not. We have structured our lives to a point that we depend on each other, as I'm assuming you guys do too, if you are either working together or considering working together. So there has to be some things that are higher priority than being upset.
For sure. And even if I know that we're arguing, it's funny. Fellas, you gotta watch out when they're making your food. If you're arguing, you gotta
Yeah, right.
snip it. Make sure. Here, you taste this first.
Okay.
Make sure.
Okay. If he does that, I've never seen it. So don't let him trick you. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to be in there pouring or wasting food, pouring anything in there. So he's fine. As you can see, he's still a strong, healthy male. So
yeah, I got my little physical today.
yeah, that's right. Okay.
You're 185.
Nice.
185.
Nice. Yes. And that the doctor is on him as well, because he'll lose weight rapidly because he forgets to eat. Now, ladies, I know you wish we had that problem. I wish I had that problem where I'm like, really? So you just forget. Now, how do you do that? You just, that's just never happened to me.
And the crazy thing is I'll go in there and sometimes I'll make her lunch, and I'll go in there and make your lunch and not even get myself anything.
Yeah.
And then go sit right back down.
Or bring it to his table.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm on a meeting. I'm going to eat it. And I have to keep going and nudging it closer to him.
Yep.
And so me making him lunch is a compromise, because I used to get up in the morning and make him breakfast and insist that he eat, and it would just sit. And I would get so frustrated to the point where I was tired of just being aggravated. And I was like, you know what? I got to face facts. He's not going to eat breakfast.
And here's the thing. It wasn't that I wasn't eating it. I just wasn't eating it right then.
Yeah.
So I'll probably eat it later on.
Maybe at 1 o'clock he will eat cold
11.
grits and eggs.
No, I'll heat it up.
Yeah, and see, my thing is I don't want him eating reheated food. That's why I make it fresh for him to sit down and eat. And so what we've compromised is lunch, or like a breakfast sandwich that's a little bit better to heat up. So it's one of those things where no matter what we're going through, I know that I need him fed. I know that I need him healthy. I know that I think on an episode of Black Love, I heard it described as self-care times 2. If it's something that I need, he's my other half. So it's just checking in to say, hey, I need this. Do you need this? Or he'll say, you know what? I'm going to go take a walk. Do you want to take a walk? So just kind of asking yourself and touching base with yourself and saying what you need, and then checking in with your partner, who is your other half. Because a lot of times what I'll find is I'm just in my own head and thinking I just need it. And then when I check in with him, he needs a break too. He needs to walk too. He needs to vent too. He's feeling unheard or feeling like the day is just crapping all over him too. And it helps me get outside my head to say, okay, I'm feeling like this. Maybe I can give him some grace because I know exactly what this feels like right now. So that does help with the conflict resolution too, is just saying, okay, but how do I feel? What do I need right now? Well, he's my other half. There's something that made us a yin and yang and brought us together. Let me check, because chances are he's probably needing that as well. So it's really one of those things that you do have to check yourself. If you're going to work together, you being upset, or you kind of going through the highs and lows of your day in ways that make you kind of argue and not talk is not something that's really feasible. Because as you grow and are blessed to grow and have people that are working under you, or as you're blessed to have a family, you have people depending on you. And those are just things that, you're not able to kind of give into as much. So we manage the conflict by finding a space to talk about it. We are not counselors by any stretch of the imagination, so there's going to be so many different ways you can talk and resolve. So definitely find that space, but at the time, just not letting it take priority. What are our principles? What are our goals? Those are going to govern what we do, and not how we're feeling at that specific moment.
Right. And one thing that is a must, no matter how you do it, though, is you have to have some sort of grace for each other, grace at a certain level of mutual respect.
Yeah.
To know that, this person isn't trying to irritate you or anything like that. A team. And so you both want the same things.
Yeah.
You may have different ways of achieving it, but you're on the same team and you both want, the same thing.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. So I don't float. I don't travel. I don't do anything unless my partner is doing it too. If I feel like he's sinking and he's just messing everything up, I'm going to sink with him. We are connected. The blessings that we get are interconnected with us kind of building this business together. And so as much as sometimes you want to be like, he's irritating me, I don't give a crap what he does. He can sit over there and pout all day. Then that means that's dead weight. You're only as strong as your weakest partner. So you really got to figure out how you can kind of get the other person on board so that you guys can start paddling together. So that's the biggest thing. I know that we don't go anywhere unless we're both on the same accord and paddling together. So sometimes even against my will, I'm like, okay, what is it? What can we do to get this? Because we got to, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
People are depending on us. Think about it, if you worked for a company in corporate and it was owned by a husband and wife, and you weren't sure if you were going to get paid if they were fighting, or if you heard yelling coming from the conference room, you'd be like, all right, I guess no overtime this week. You know what I mean? And that's what I think that our kids are subjected to.
Reality show.
What?
That would be a good show.
What?
Husband and wife, entrepreneur couple running a business, and their personal stuff gets in the way of the company, and
you see how the coworker, it wouldn't be long because people will quit. They're not going to do that. They're not going to deal with that. They're not. You're not messing with people's money for sure. And so that's what we think about. I don't want to mess with your money and your time. So you came and hitched your star to my dream. I owe it to you to figure this out so that I can get you where you're trying to go, and in turn, you're getting us where we're trying to go. So it's just secondary. The conflicts are secondary to who's depending on us and who needs us.
Yeah. Unequal contributions. So that's a touchy subject, not with us, I mean just in general, because, both people want to feel like their contributions are making a difference, right? And everybody's contribution, both parties' contributions are important, but they're not always seen as important, I guess, if that makes sense. An example that I have would be, there's times where, like I said, she will sit down at her desk and will stay there for 12 hours. And so she's over there killing it. And me, if I'm over there, I'll do something, get up, go do something else that's physical, or do something in the house or in the yard or something like that, and then come back to my desk and do more desk work. And so the outside looking in, that appearance could be, especially if she's, over there working and she's looking over, she's like, where is he at? What in the world is going on? And then I'm coming back, and then an hour later I'm gone again. She's like, what in the heck? I thought I gave him these 12 things to do. Where's he at on this list? Where is he at? Look at her. She's
well, I will say, I mean, it's not something that we deal with now because, but we, 2 years? Was it 2 years? Yes. So we've been working together for 2 years. So what happened is,
longer than that, but
just for you being home. So yes. So the day I started the company, he was like, tell me what I got to do, tell me what I got to learn. And then he would come home after working his 8-hour job, and I would hand him a stack of whatever and be like, I need you to do this. I don't have the bandwidth, or I'm working on this, that, and the other. From day one, I've never had to write a check for payroll. I've never had to do a lot of our IT stuff. He took that over. So yes, in the beginning, as I was getting it up and running, he was still working a job and then coming home and working for our company. And so then when we started working together, it was a surprise, because although we had planned it, it was as a result of a layoff. It was just God, kicking us in the butt and saying, if I don't move you, you won't move. So we realized that. There was no tears. There was no, oh my gosh, well, what are you going to do? We're like, okay, we hear you. I guess we better get this figured out.
No, there wasn't tears, but I was like, what the heck? You know how, like, when, like, you're going to break up with this person, but then they beat you to it. It's like, what the? No, I'm supposed to be the one breaking up with you. He wanted the one,
yes. But he would always say, babe, if anybody's going to go, I think it's going to be me. They know that I own property. They know, like, I talked to my boss about owning property. He owns property. He was just like, I don't think that they even think I need this job. And I'm like, well, tell them you do, So we had an idea, like, even though he didn't know it was coming, we had an idea, like, if anybody's contracts don't get renewed, because the amount they were paying them, they couldn't be salary. They were just on contract. So you get a contract every year. So if anybody's contract is not going to be renewed, it's going to be me. We knew that. So we were always moving in that direction. I think we were just scared to take that leap.
For sure.
But when he did, it was over a holiday weekend. So then we came back. I said, okay, Monday, we're going to hit the ground running. So I sit down. I'm used to this, right? Because I've been working for myself for some time now. I see him. He's not sure what to do. So he's outside weeding. He's, in the kitchen, tightening the cabinet handles. And I'm looking around like, what are you doing? Where are you? And it took me a minute, because a couple of things. Number one, I had to say, okay, he's mourning him being needed at this job. His normal is new now, and he's trying to figure it out. So I had to try to give him some grace when it came to that. But second of all, he had been used to doing the tasks that he needed to do in our company in the 3 hours after dinner, when he would work an 8-hour day, eat dinner with us, and then be able to do it, right before bed. So now he's having to figure out what to do to fill this 8 hours, and he doesn't know. And that took us some time to kind of figure out, what are you doing? Why are you, I gave this to you. Why are you not, why are you doing all these drop-offs and errands right after you drop the kids off at school? You should be back in the office. Like, what's going on? It took a lot of micromanaging on my part to understand he does have his own way, his own process. He's getting things done. It's just not the way I get things done. And so it was because when I looked at kind of what he's doing, the contribution is still there. It's happening at different times. It comes in at different levels. So sometimes I will form a framework of this is what needs to be done. This is the new thing I want to implement. His workload is not going to be as hard when that comes because I'm the one doing the framework. But there are times then when I hand it over to him and say, okay, make it happen. And then his workload is going to increase because he has to figure out all the details. I say, I want interactive training. We've been doing the same old rote training. I want you to find a platform where we can play games and we can have them do quizzes inside of it and we can do all that.
And to that point, like she just said, there is no platform that allows you to do any of what she just said.
He said he's an IT. You heard him, right? I don't know why when I give him specific instructions, he can't just build what I ask. Maybe I just don't know how IT works, but in my mind, I'm like, I was very clear with you what I needed. So you've worked for some of the top companies in the world, make it happen.
Yeah, and I tell them no as well. I'm like, no, that can't happen. And my favorite one is, why can't I get a computer that doesn't need to be restarted? I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You got to restart. It's like going to sleep. Like, you can't be up 24/7.
Okay, so that's not a good example because it can sleep. The computer can sleep without shutting down and closing every single app I had open.
Right.
Now, some of you guys know this. Some of you guys have immaculate memories and you can remember what you had. And some of you guys' memories are the taskbars that are open. So you're searching for Halloween costumes. That's a taskbar. If that closes, you forget you're searching for Halloween costumes. You need to get your mom a gift because her birthday's in 2 weeks. You saw some cool thing on Facebook. You clicked on it. Now that link is open. You don't remember all these websites. You don't remember any. Yeah, so my memory fully consists of the 7 taskbars that I have open that have 14 other lines in them that helps me. Yes.
This is 7 times 7, you mean?
Well, yeah, because then there's 7 within the ones.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So all I ask is for a computer that can just go to sleep like the rest of us and wake up where we started.
Oh, no. You don't want to go to sleep. You want it to not restart.
That's,
you hate updates. You hate all that kind of stuff.
100%.
I'm like, how's the computer supposed to get updated?
100%.
You gotta. Yeah. So instead of changing, her process and saving stuff, she just keeps it all open, and then she'll come to her computer one morning and it'll say,
it will have restarted.
Windows has been updated.
And there is nothing worse. There is no pain worse than knowing that Windows has updated and you didn't save. Now, a lot of times they're good with recovering, but it's not always where you had it. You can't remember everything. So we digress.
Yeah.
But there are times where it seems like my workload is more because I'm coming up with the skeleton of what I need to happen, or there is a marketing campaign that we need to do, or something different that we need to put it. And so my workload is more, and he's kind of just towing the line and keeping the things that we do day to day. And then there's times where I hand it over to him and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have as much. So just also having that respect for, as long as you have separated the responsibilities based on who's better equipped to do them, as long as you've agreed on those separation of responsibilities, give the other person time to do it in their own time. Understand that there's a contribution that's greater than the X's and O's of what they may be doing at that time. There's the support. Last week I was sick. I didn't get out of my bed for 3 days. The company still ran. Our manager's meeting still happened without me. Everything was fine. I was in the middle of hiring people. He still kept those people happy and placated so that when I came back, they accepted the position and didn't think that we had, just hung them out to dry. So there was a lot of things where he understood what he needed to do to keep everything afloat so that I could have those much needed days too. I think I woke up maybe 2 or 3 times in those days for him to give me a sip of Sprite, and I was knocked out. So the contribution is not always going to be exactly what the day-to-day is. You have to remember that the contribution is also that you have a partner that always has your back and that is able to kind of pinch hit when needed. And then, like I said, sometimes it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. It's going to be, we both are making the sacrifice to work, but at different times we're going to be giving at different times. And I say that to the person that's also at sometimes feeling like, I'm not doing as much, because I'm sure you felt like that, before.
Yeah, like I said, when she's sitting at her desk, that's probably when I feel it the most, because it's kind of like that office 9-to-5 mentality. Your manager or boss is walking around, and if you're not at your desk, it doesn't matter what's on your screen necessarily. If you're at your desk, you're working at least. And so just that perception of not working just because you're not at your desk. That was something that we had to work on and get over. On the flip side of that, while I may not be sitting at my desk for 8 straight hours, and I'm, slowly getting away from this now, is I would make up that time in the evening and stay up until about 2 or so, getting that stuff in that I wasn't able to get in during the daytime. A lot of the stuff that I do as well, people are asking me for stuff and kind of distracting me. So at night, I have a lot of uninterrupted time to where I can kind of dedicate and focus, and I know I won't be interrupted. But then that kind of goes into the whole blurred boundaries part where, the evening time is supposed to be our time, and we're not supposed to be working. So that's something that we work on constantly.
Oh yeah, there is nothing on the list of things that we'll give you that we have mastered. Because as soon as you master it, life changes and something happens and a new branch opens up, or life hands you another variable. Well, now you have to juggle that. So if you feel like it is a constant shift and is a constant balancing act, then that means you're doing it right. It means you're learning how to pivot with whatever life or business hands you. So there's not going to be somebody, at least anybody that we've met, that will come in and say, oh yeah, we got that master. We'll tell you exactly what to do, A to Z. And if you do it like this, it'll never, ever give you any problems. I just don't think life is set up like that.
Right.
Life is not static. At least if you're living a full life, it's not static. There's always going to be some growth and some change that's going to be required of you. So what we're telling you right now is a start. And then you kind of apply that to what your situation calls for and figure out how to manage it within what you need.
For sure. All right. Communication and miscommunication. So this is important in any type of relationship, whether it's entrepreneur, business, marriage, friendship, family, all of that matters. And that's how you communicate is paramount to, obviously getting your message across, being on the same page, and then getting the desired results.
Yeah, I think too that setting up a time to talk about certain things, again, carves out that space for those things to happen. So not guessing what needs to happen, not guessing what you need from the other person, and carving out that time. Usually on Monday we have our meeting. So our CEO meeting, our couples meeting, where we kind of go over, what does your week look like? What do you need from me? This is what I'm working on. This is what we need to make decisions on this week. This is what I'm going to need from you. I got to go to the kids' school this day. And so really understanding exactly what is needed. That way, as the week goes on, we've already kind of set the goalpost for this is exactly what we are looking to accomplish this week. And a lot of things we can either qualify or disqualify based on if it's going to help us get to where we need to get that week.
For sure. For me, that helps me focus in on what we need to do together for that time frame or for that week. If we don't have that meeting, my list is like this, and I'll be all over that list, all over it. And stuff will get done, but it may not be what should be prioritized for that week. So that communication about what the priority is for that week and who's doing what is very important.
For sure. Next week we have staff meetings. So a lot of what we will be. That's right. So in 2 weeks we'll have staff meetings. So let's use that as an example. So a lot of what we'll be doing that week will be focused on making sure that everything is set up to do the staff training, to get the information across to our staff that we need to get across, to make sure that we have the metrics that we need so we can reward our staff. So there may be 100 things on your list, but we're going to talk about how you need to prioritize these 5 things because we need to make sure that we have a strong showing at these staff meetings. It's when we give our staff confidence in working for us. Do they know what they're doing, or are they, just fumbling around? And so based on what we know needs to happen that week, we kind of make the adjustments, and that communication kind of helps set the tone for the rest of the communication, because then we can say, hey, I'm not going to be in, I got to be at the school. I promised I would go help. Or I got a lot of errands I got to run. I got to go, when we have new staff, we have to meet up and give them supplies. And, so a lot of times he's doing that. I'm not going to be in the office a lot. I got a lot of stuff that I need to do. And so I think when I hear communication, I hear that like initial setting the structure for communication, because I feel then everything else kind of falls into place when it comes to, what needs to happen and how we communicate.
For sure. This next one is decision-making struggles. Now, this is important because, you don't want to have, what's it called, paralysis analysis?
Yes.
You don't want to have paralysis analysis. And so I can get caught up in that because my the disc profile.
Yes.
The disc profile, and you guys can Google that and figure out what that is. I am a high I, which is very social, a high S, which is for support, and C for
Consistent.
Consistent, yes.
Yeah.
And so what that means for me is I'll overanalyze to the T before making a decision. And sometimes you just need to go in and make the decision, see what the result is, and if you need to adjust, adjust. If not, keep it moving to something else. We are very different in that, and whereas in the disc profile, she's a high D, which is decision making.
I'm pretty much only a D. The I comes in when and adaptive, but he's way more I than I am. He's way more extroverted. If you see us out and about, he's the one that's most likely to, start this whole conversation with you and just, really be into it. That's he's never met a person that's not a friend, right? So what I am most governed by is my D, the ability to kind of take control. It's dominant. So some people would say it's overbearing or controlling, but that didn't work in DISC. So we use D for dominant, and plus it makes us feel, a little better. But it's really just kind of where we struggle or where we get at odds is I'm not interested in analyzing it at all. I'm not interested in knowing what may or may not happen. I want to throw it all against the wall and see what sticks, because you don't know what you don't know until you jump in and just do it. So while he's wanting to go over and kind of get all the details, I'm over that already. I want to fail 7 times during it so that I know what to do. Both of them work.
Yeah.
Both of them definitely work. There's cases to be made for both of them.
Yeah, just in different situations.
Yes. And God saw fit to put us both together and have us iron out how to decide how to make decisions in one business with 2 warring personality types. So I would say the first thing is to find out which type of person you are. Yes. So there is the DISC assessment. And then I know ET does the flight assessment. It is based very strongly off the DISC assessment. It just puts it into...
Hey, who's ET?
Oh, sorry. You guys should know, right? You guys don't know? Eric Thomas. So if you Google Eric Thomas and the flight assessment, which we've taken both of, we've taken the DISC and the flight assessment, you'll see he puts it into ways that kind of explain that everybody's on the plane and there are different personality types that's helpful in getting the plane off the ground and up and ready. So I think what it's done is it's kind of personalized the DISC assessment. So as you can see, it's not as cold as just a letter. It helps you see how all personality types lend themselves to progress being made.
And they're all of their roles are important.
Vital,
so
yes.
A perfect example of that difference in analogy is, I remember when we first took it and it was just the disc. And so like we said, she's the high D, the decision maker, and so she was like a 90 or a 95 on a scale of 100 as far as D, and I was like a 10. And so I was like, I make decisions all the time. What are you talking about? And so I was kind of offended by it, because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to make decisions. But once it was, reiterated differently, and the D ended up being
the pilot.
But the pilot can't get off the ground if the grounds crew isn't doing what they're doing. If the
what is it? Who are these people?
Not air traffic control.
Yes, air traffic controllers. Yes. That's what it is. Yep.
So all of those are needed in order for the pilot to do his thing.
Yeah, the pilot is very singularly self-focused, and they're saying, "Tell me when to go," and they know how to do one thing very well. The grounds crew and the air traffic controller, they are able to do so many different things well to make sure that the pilot is successful in his one big job. So a lot of times we think that the pilot is making it all happen. What is helpful too is to learn how other personality types lend themselves to your personality type, because then you can see, I might be the one that's flying the plane, but I go nowhere without these other personalities lending themselves to me to make sure that I'm successful. Sure. And so that's the biggest thing. And his, the I is flight attendant. So his ability to talk to people and to pull people in and to make connections have gotten us into so many rooms and has, have really made so many connections for us that the pilot being sequestered off in the cabin, just flying the plane, can't do the rest of that stuff. So having respect for what the other personality types bring to the table. But I think knowing what those are is going to help you figure out your decision-making skills. It's going to also help you a lot in the communication as well, but you're going to know, this is how I make decisions. And like he was saying, none of them are bad. It's just what's needed in a situation. If we're making a high investment decision, I can't just throw all the money in there and see what sticks or see what, you know what I mean? There's some things where we would be gambling more than we had to lose.
Right.
So I trust his analytical skills to look at things 3-4 times. He will tell you, I don't read contracts. I don't read anything with a lot of words because I'm a big skimmer. I'm like, I get the general idea. He's going to be the one that's going to read the details and keep us, within the lines of what we need to be in. And so there are some things where we can't afford to make a decision based on, let's just go out there and do it. But then there's some marketing strategies. There's some different business aspects that it's like, you know what? We are not going to be able to analyze our way to this. We are going to have to jump and see what happens. And so we've had some beautiful experiences because I've been like, you know what? We're doing it. We're jumping. But we've also remained financially solvent because he's been able to say, you know what? I need to look at this. Just give me some time. You're not going to rush me to make this decision. I need to be able to sit with it and respecting. Okay, God looked at me and said, this is what you need. And so this is what I gave you. Why then wouldn't I use that to make myself and us as strong as possible? So as much as it irritates me sometimes because I feel like he is shatting on all my ideas. I do know that I was given this, it's like a superpower, right? It's powers outside of what you possess. That's what your significant other is. And so why wouldn't I, lean to that on times where it's necessary? I'm his superpower, he's mine. And so really looking at each other like that and leaning on the decision-making skill that would serve you best,
For sure. And the best way I can kind of illustrate it is, my job is to create this box, right? And the box is this security.
Yeah.
And so she can do whatever she wants to do in that box.
Yeah.
And the box, I assure you, the box started out like this when we got together. And then she'll press and press. And how this works is she'll say, hey, I want to do this, and this. And I'm like, okay, we can't do all 4 of those things. We can only do 2 of those things. And she's like, what? Are you serious? How? And so I'll go back and then I'll figure out, okay, maybe we can do 3 of the things, not just 2.
Yeah.
And so then the box gets like this, and then the box gets like this.
But I think that's why I'm in your life, because imagine how small your boxes would be that you moved within if you just accepted that answer that you gave yourself in the beginning. And imagine just how out of control and a messy array of crap my life would be if I was just kind of floating through the air with no boundaries and nobody really kind of, looking into things and defining role. Nothing is better than a person, like a free spirit like me, than having somebody to say, I want you to be free. I want you to do this, and this. Stay within the circle, because then I know I'm free within that. I know he has my back. I know if he sees me getting too close to something that doesn't mean us good, he's going to be, he's going to be there to pull me back. That yin and yang is very helpful, So if you have somebody in your life that you're like, they're just all over the place, they're a free spirit, it's not a bad thing because they are going to open you up to possibilities that you never thought about.
Absolutely.
But free spirit, if you have somebody that's willing to love you enough to be like, I'm not trying to squash this. I just need to give you some boundaries so that we can be productive and move towards a goal. Embrace that as well, because it allows you to be who you are without having to deal with all of that, but also gives you that assurance that somebody is there dealing with all of that.
And how that works with us outside of business is, if we're traveling or something, before we go there, I'm looking up all sorts of stuff to do there. Now, I don't like to have an itinerary of stuff that you have to do. I like options. And so I know that she's not necessarily wanting to just get there and not do anything. She wants to, float around, do stuff. And so, but at the same time, she doesn't want to be bound to a list of stuff too. She may, see all this list of stuff and be like, I just want to chill. I just want to stay in bed or whatever. And so,
or I may want to walk around and see what the day brings us. Yes.
Yep. Let's just see what happens.
That's my favorite line.
Oh my God, that's so nerve-wracking.
That's what life has become. Let's just go and see what happens, because life can be beautiful if you don't box yourself into we have to do this, because I feel like you're looking down to get to your destination instead of looking around to see what might happen upon. So he's been very gracious in allowing himself to kind of be open more to seeing what happens. But I also know that it is not going to be a fun trip for him if he doesn't have an itinerary.
For sure. And I would say maybe half the time we don't even use the stuff that I look up. But if we want to, we can.
Yeah.
And I'm completely okay with, putting that legwork in and, that effort not being 100% used.
Because a lot of times we have tickets to cool stuff. We have all this stuff where he's like, we can cancel it. But if we find ourselves at 6 o'clock with nothing to do, there's this cool show I already bought tickets for. And I love that.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's do it. I just don't want to be attached to a whole list of stuff. I'm going to start feeling the walls closing on me. I don't, that's hard for me. So.
Fellas, so one tip, I'm going to tell you, make sure you have a time, a date, and a location. That's it. They love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Of course. I think that there's been a lot of talk now about the what are you doing guy and the get dressed. I have plans for us at 7 o'clock with this guy. I think that guy is starting to win. I don't know. Back in the day, the WYD guy in our DMs and in our text messages, they may have made some traction, but there's been a lot of talk now about that guy that's like, oh, hey, I was thinking that we'd go to the Clippers game and then do dinner afterwards. And you're like, okay. Because if you have a plan for our date, I'm thinking you got a plan for, days moving forward. So yes, I second that. I'm here for that. Time, date, location, fellas, make it happen.
Don't matter what it is, just have a plan.
And be open to the plan changing.
I was just about to
say. Let's not.
I was just about to say that.
Let's not get ridiculous.
Yep.
So this is a dense topic that we've gotten ourselves into, right? There are a lot of objections on why we should not work together. In the interest of not keeping you guys for a 3-hour conversation.
Because all these topics are very important.
And it's very important that we give each topic the amount of attention it deserves and give you some feedback and some examples of what has worked for us so that the podcast doesn't come off sounding like we don't want you to work together, because we actually do. So in the interest of that, we're going to put this into 2 podcasts, and you're able to join us on part 2 for the second half of why you should not work with your spouse.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So thank you so much for tuning in for the first half of this topic. If you felt like we added any value to your life, we made you laugh, we made you say, aha, then go ahead and hit that like button or that subscribe button. We would love to have you guys rocking with us and following us on our journey and building our community of couples that are working together. In the meantime, it is our sincerest prayer that you and your partner, your significant other, will continue to be unified in purpose,
unstoppable as a team,
and unconditional above all.